This shit's fire.
This is a fucking banger.
Ladies and gentlemen, cats, snakes, dogs, chicken, elderly people, workers, and twerkers.
Yeah.
Turn it up.
I don't give a fuck. It's the Ruckus. What the fuck you expect?
I body slapped my wife, my nigga. Man.
Long time episode. All right, yo, let's get it going. So, everybody, welcome to the podcast. It's another episode. Let's get it kicking. Let's get it rocking. So, in the group earlier this week, we was talking about. We've actually been having this conversation for a while over the movie Tropic Thunder. Anybody who's seen the movie knows what the fuck it's about. And really, the question is about blackface, about what y'all feel about Robert Downey Jr. being able to do blackface, and about non-ethnic people playing roles of ethnic characters. So is it okay for like a Puerto Rican to play a Cuban? Is it okay for an Italian actor to play a Dominican? Is it okay for a white actor to play any role? And I think the consensus for some of y'all is that y'all don't matter because it's acting.
Yeah.
The other side is that there should be limits to what's, how it's done. So anybody want to kick it off and we can go from there? Anybody have an initial opinion?
I'll go.
You go. Is
Denzel a corrupt cop?
Bro, all I'm saying is,
Oh my god,
bro.
This is terrible.
Listen.
No, stop.
Yeah, you should have.
Hold on.
I know.
Yo, if
but
you get one warning.
Yeah, you get one warning, please, for the life.
Denzel a corrupt cop?
Oh my god.
No.
Listen.
For what? For acting. I'm telling you this right now.
Alex, I can't hear you. Hold on. Go back to your mic, Alex. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, we
much
can hear
better.
you.
Why is Mike muted?
So I'm saying this,
He has
like,
to.
yo,
Okay.
To my friend's phone.
Okay.
like I'm saying this, like, yo, he was acting. Robert Downey Jr. was. I agree with Casey. He was
Right.
acting as a dude. And I don't want to do the line. I don't want to do the line.
Do the line, bro. Do the line.
He was acting like a dude, being another dude, doing another
This guy's
dude.
another dude.
This guy is another dude. That's exactly what he did. And the thing is, that's not really blackface, because the thing is, he's poking fun at Hollywood, trying to be so diverse, but yet they're fucking doing all the blackface. You can go to SNL. SNL, they critique Trump all the fucking time and talk shit all the time, but yet they did a lot of blackface. Jimmy Fallon, fucking Dan Aykroyd, shit like
Drake.
that. Drake? No.
Drake's a
You
jackass.
always got me. But shit like that. So Robert Downey Jr. taking that role, I think was.
So you're
I got something to
relativizing
say.
it. You're basically saying just because it's done everywhere else in Hollywood, it's okay for Robert Downey
No,
Jr. to do
it was a
He's
critique.
bringing it to light, Lou.
He was making
Nah,
fun
but-
of it, bringing it to light.
Lou,
That's what Casey just said.
let me tell you something though.
Tell me something.
Al Pacino.
After this, can I say something? Because I really need like a 5
All right.
on this one.
Mike
Alright.
is next after Abram.
Al
Go ahead,
Pacino was
I need a 5 on this one.
Al Pacino was Cuban from 1983 to 1993. All right,
Yup. And then Puerto Rican.
until
then
he
Puerto
became
Rican.
Puerto Rican. All right. I'm not
Okay.
offended by that. He could be whatever the fuck he wants as an actor.
Yo,
If
He fucking killed them roles, so I don't mind.
if he likes those films. Ask him if he likes those films.
Of course
Do
he's
you like
gonna.
those films?
Do you like those films?
Yeah, I do, but they're problematic.
Exactly.
What's problematic about him playing
Hold on.
Carlito's Way?
Hold on. I'm gonna let Cuba do his thing, and then I'm gonna give you my quick wrap up because I got something to say about that.
sounds
Go
good.
ahead, Cuba. 'Cause I want to hear what Cuba has to say.
This is all jokes aside. I need a 5 on this one, and because
How you get 3?
Actually, it's personal. Okay, give me 4 then. Give me 4.
All right, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Don't listen to Casey. He has no
Because the
say.
thing, like, I took acting classes, so
Boom.
I was actually trying to like become one and fucking failed.
oh, he took acting class.
Yes, I did, sweetie. So I get.
You act a fool. I don't know about
Shut
no
the
acting
hell up.
class. I'm sorry. I love you.
I love it. Love it.
But
Putting him on the spot.
here's
Go
the
ahead.
thing. I'll ask you this, Lou. Me, Cuban Mike, been around Dominicans damn near all my life. I go for a movie and apply to go for a Dominican role. Do you find that offensive because you prefer like an actual Dominican person?
Nope. Oh, you're just talking to Brutus. My bad.
Yeah.
You want me to answer, or are you gonna keep? I wouldn't necessarily find it offensive if you, Cuban Mike, did a Dominican role, because I know that A, you've lived around Dominicans your whole life, and B, Cubans and Dominicans have a shared history, and I know you also respect Dominican culture. Like you've done you not just because you live in Lawrence, but I know that you ask questions about Dominican culture. So I know that you yourself would go about it the right way, and I know
And
What
that
happens if you
like
didn't know
one.
that? What happens if you didn't know that?
Yeah, Brutus.
No,
Hold on,
if
hold on.
you're asking me, if
Well-
you're asking me, I'm always gonna do my research before I make a critique on something. I'm not just gonna read a headline. So,
Because
All right.
I
Finish, Mike,
understand
yeah.
where you're coming from.
So go ahead.
I understand where you're coming from in that logic, saying that somebody that should play that thing. So you were talking about Andy Garcia being Cuban, he should be an Italian
Oh hell yeah.
because you feel the Italian person got in that role, correct?
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Now here's the thing. Here's where the slippery slope begins. And here's the reason why I think you should put
Slippery slope.
Tropic Thunder. They
Hook,
are
line, and
making
sinker.
fun of what Hollywood. They're making fun of the stuff that you are mad at, but in not in a mockery kind of way. Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and you see the movie, it's supposed to be a thing about a black person playing that role, but instead they found somebody that was looking like Middle Eastern, tan skin, and they darkened him out. And they made him shuck and jive in the whole movie. And it wasn't until like midway to the end of the movie he caught an epiphany saying, "Yo, what I'm doing is wrong." Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, with that being said, Jennifer Lopez, she's Puerto Rican. She played a Mexican, Selena. At
Yeah.
first, the Mexican
Yeah,
people
of
caught
course,
shit.
She's a
Of
shitty
course.
actor though.
Keep
That's the
going, keep
difference.
going, keep going.
She caught shit for it.
Oh, Kraken came back.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
caught
I'm
shit
here.
for it because she wasn't Mexican. But then once they saw the movie, she killed, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Keep going.
So with that being said, like, why is there a problem if the person keyword is acting? There's a thin line between acting and you acting making a mockery of the stuff. And I'm gonna bring on a full circle, but there's two people I'm gonna bring up that people forgot about. If you're acting and you're supposed to be in that role and you kill, there shouldn't be a problem unless you're acting that role. My man Jeffrey Wright, you remember the movie Shaft when he played Peoples?
Yeah, this is Jeffrey Carter, my friend.
He killed that. He's not nowhere near Latino. He was a
He
black
killed it,
American
bro.
playing Dominican. He killed it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So
how
so
can you
okay.
be mad
So
at Andy Garcia, but that be mad at Jeffrey Wright?
no. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer it. This is my thing. I'm gonna explain this, and I'm gonna try to be concise. And y'all can tell me to shut the fuck up if I go on too long.
Oh, we will.
Thank you. You can even mute my mic if you want to. One of the things is, first of all, and I'm going to
Yo,
use
shut the
y'all's
fuck
favorite.
I knew that was gonna happen right away. You should never say
You should
that.
never give him the go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I should have never done. That's my fault. So I'm gonna use a line from one of y'all's favorite comedians, Dave Chappelle. When Dave Chappelle was interviewed by Oprah as to why he left the Chappelle show, the one reason he gave is that he realized at one point when he did a certain skit that he realized at that point that they weren't laughing with him, they were laughing at him. And the thing with blackface in Hollywood in general, and that film in particular, is that you think that they're laughing with you. Hollywood is always laughing at you. I'm sorry to say, we're going to get to this when we talk about the movie Soul. There is no way for people that are in power, which is white people, that they're gonna empathize with your struggle. They don't understand blackface. They don't understand how hurtful it is. So they don't give a fuck. And the other problem is that Robert Downey Jr. specifically, when he was asked then and now about doing blackface, he literally did not give a fuck. He literally said, why are people angry about blackface? This is a white man who did not understand why blackface was a problem when he did the film. He didn't understand the backlash. And when people explained it to him, he was like, well, I don't give a fuck. This is what I did. People are so sensitive, da 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 da. So in terms of Robert Downey Jr., fuck him for doing that. Fuck Hollywood, because they don't give a fuck about us. And they're laughing at you, and you guys are sitting there saying, no, but you're defending them laughing at you. About Andy Garcia being this is the final thing about Andy Garcia being an Italian or Al Pacino being a Puerto Rican and a Cuban. Those movies, they were good cult classics, whatever. But I find them highly problematic because when these people, white people, they do roles of Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and Dominicans, they're never doing roles that uplift us. You always have to realize what type of roles that they're performing of us. And what happens is that when you get a Dominican actor, and you're telling him you need to act like a drug dealer, any Dominican who's proud of being Dominican is probably not going to want to take that role. So they get a non-Dominican actor to do so. They do the same thing with Cubans. They do the same thing. And so they're taking people that are not of our ethnicity, that they're not proud of who we are, and they're allowing them to depict back to us images of that we're not. And that's highly fucking problematic. The other thing is that, and this is the final point, when Hollywood tells you that you're interchangeable, that you're the same as a Mexican, as a Cuban, as a Puerto Rican, it doesn't matter to them who the fuck is there. They don't care about those distinctions. They're also telling you that they don't care. So they're all telling you all the time, like, well, Puerto Ricans are the same as Cubans. Bro, I've seen people literally get stabbed for saying that Puerto Ricans and Dominicans are the same. It's a real thing.
Yo.
And
Here's the thing. Now,
But
hold on.
you-
Let me finish. I'm gonna bring
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm
No, go ahead.
Bring it to the point.
I gotta finish it.
That was my point.
Oh, okay.
We're pieces. We're
I
pieces to them.
understand, Lou, listen. I understand you're saying that with Hollywood, but you also gotta understand there's certain things when an actor, whether you're black or white, if they know how to act and take it to that range to be something that they're not, you can't pull saying that, well, he did a good job, but it should have been a such and such person acting that role. Because by your logic, Idris Elba shouldn't have no movie role pertaining a black American because he's from England. But what he does, he goes to that lane and knows how to be a black American and take that action on and talk to the black American slang.
Exactly. And you know what the problem with that is? He's always doing a caricature. Go ahead.
Same thing with Marshall Ali. You say he killed it in Moonlight, right?
Mahershala.
You know he was Cuban in that movie, right? You know he was Cuban in that movie.
Yeah, don't whisper that.
Yeah.
He was Cuban. By your logic, you're saying he shouldn't have been that movie. That movie should have been offered to probably somebody like Lance Alonso or somebody that was Cuban to play that role because he's not an actual Cuban.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And
Then it's not acting, Lou.
Yeah. And one more thing, and this is one that I would say the Dominicans and Puerto Ricans gonna have to take this loss. Because remember when Zoe Saldana tried to play the role with Nina Simone?
Oh, people went crazy.
Remember that?
Awful.
That's the shit that Lou should be mad.
Because they
because
they darkened her. They darkened her. And when they should have gotten a
blackface.
Yeah. They should have gotten an actor for that. A different actor for that.
I was mad. I was mad when Zoe Saldana took that role. I thought it was awful. I do think that, I know KC was going to say something about, it's acting or Idris Elba. Understand that the roles that they're playing are caricatures. Only black men know what it's like to be black in America, for example. I'm sorry. Only Dominican men.
Right.
Go ahead.
That's wrong. You're acting. There's a difference between you acting and having some integrity about it, and you acting making a mockery out of it. When you're acting and making a mockery out of it, that's when the problem begins.
But there's always gonna be like a gap.
And the difference between even Jennifer Lopez when she plays Selena or Eldridge or Marshall Ali, when they acting, they bring some sort of integrity behind it.
Right, but there's always gonna be a gap though. There's always gonna be a cultural gap, and I think that's what Brutus is talking about. I think that's what Lou is talking about.
Even with Penelope Cruz, when she played that movie when she was a Cuban. I don't know if you've seen that movie. There was a movie that came out on Netflix where she played.
Right, and there's a cultural gap. I mean, she might do a good job. Right.
I hated the movie, but she killed it as an actress because she had the accent packed down to the fullest.
But okay, so I'll give Kraken, the finish on this, but he actually worded it a lot better. There is a cultural gap, and the point I was going to say is that only a black American knows what it's like to be. Only a black man knows what it's like to be black in America.
So I am Dominican. I'm not
only
black.
A Dominican knows what it's like to be a Dominican, and I'm going to be honest with you. And we've talked about this before. Amongst the Caribbean nations and Latin American nations, different nations get treated differently. Cubans and Puerto Ricans for Americans get treated a lot different than Dominicans. They do. And then Dominicans get treated differently than Mexicans, and Mexicans get treated different than Guatemalans, and so on. And so those experiences shape who you are within the context of America. Only Guatemalans are going to know what it's like to be Guatemalan.
Okay,
so how do you
but
go on screen and act like a Guatemalan? The pain of what it is to be a Guatemalan. You don't. You're acting.
Because
I'm not black. I'm Dominican.
Real actors. Yes, Abram, you're Dominican. You know black. No, papi. Listen. Listen, you said only black people know what it's to be black in America, right? What about the directors and the screenwriters and the people that are behind the film that you don't even see? This is your problem. Like even people like the movies that are based on real life events, they normally reach out to the people if they're still alive or families or whatever, and those people sit down with the actors, and the actors do the research. Real actors, that you can see that transpire on the screen. Because you can tell when somebody didn't do their research or not. When a movie is bad and you're mad, that person didn't do their research or a whole bunch of things. Again, there's a lot of moving parts in the movie.
Yeah, it is.
So did they research. So did their research.
But let me ask you this: why is it, for example, we have this genre of movies, of biopics that they tell the history of like artists. So you had Ray, you had the movie Miles Davis, all of these. Why is it that the interpretation of a lot of our heroes are always in the worst part of their lives, when they're addicted to drugs, when they're in bankruptcy, when they're beating their wives? Why is it that Hollywood always focuses on that central element of the black male experience or black female experience? And then the question about that, and you brought up a great point.
That's a whole different question. You see, moving the goalposts.
No. I'm bringing it back. No. You
moved the goalposts right there.
He put that shit in another field.
Now you have a problem with the film. Now all films are like that, Lewis. I'm gonna give you a great note.
Remember, you need a beginning, introduction of the character, and then you need an arc. The arc is the struggle, what attracts you to that character, and then at the end is the resolve, where you resolve the conflict that happened. So it happens. Look,
every movie.
Yeah, Benny Blanco shot
the wrestler. Look at the wrestler. Look at the wrestler.
What?
The movie, The Wrestler. You remember that? You guys haven't seen it?
I'm trying to remember which one's going.
Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
It's
and
a fictional
it had its arc. Yes, but it portrayed.
But you got Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street is another example. He's a real guy.
Yeah.
But they changed. They changed the structure because there's a paradigm that they have when they write scripts. They have to have that arc. So when it goes down,
I've read about
that. And tie the knot at the end.
I disagree with Lou there because I mean,
hold on.
All right, thank you for sharing that with us. I was gonna say because there's a lot of roles and a lot of piece of shit white people, Italian, whatever you want to call it. There's movies with pieces of shit everywhere. Like you said, the guy from Wolf of Wall Street. That's a perfect example. Like Robert De Niro playing the guy who did the Ponzi scheme, who owned the Mets. There's a bunch of different the two popes. Wherever you want to go, there's shitty roles, and it's life, bro. If that artist ended up doing drugs at some point and was able to redeem himself, it's part of his life. So it is what it is.
I get that. But let me bring it full circle. But let me bring it full circle to you. The reason I bring up
wait, y'all talking over each other. Let Mike talk. Hold on.
When does the buck stop? Because you're talking about the actors playing certain roles that shouldn't because they're not that. How far do you want to go with? You know what I mean? What about the writers? You know what I mean? What about the white writers?
That's my main concern.
The producers. And that's the point I want to get to.
Like how far?
And that's the point I want to get to, Mike. Because when we going back to talking about Tropic Thunder, the whole idea of Tropic Thunder was written by, produced by, greenlit by white people. That's a problem.
Ben still is
literally what they're feeding. They're feeding back to you. Hold on a second. But they're feeding back to you an image of what it is to be black in America. It's white people doing this. That is if we're talking about
showing you what Hollywood is.
But it's not that. It's like, the problem is with that, Lou, the issue you have with that is that you see blackface, and once you see the blackface, it's like you get upset, and then people get offended there. It's not just seeing the blackface, they get mad. You got to see the context behind the black. Like, okay, why is he wearing that? What happened? What led to that? Why are they making a movie and this guy's wearing blackface in this particular movie? You know what I mean? There's different dynamics that lead to that. You just can't say he's wearing blackface and you get upset. That's why people who get the rationale with the joke, they knew why he's wearing the blackface, and then make it.
There's a different way to do it. Bamboozle talked about this in a fucking incredible way. There's a way to do this. This is what I'm saying. And I shit on the Wayans family a lot, but I also give them a lot of credit. Bamboozle was a fucking
Wayans family. They're royalty.
I'm critical of some of the things.
Well, look, the Wayans family and white girls, they play either Dominican or Cuban bodega owners. No, hey, Bobby, hey. Why? I should be too, but I'm not. Like my uncle acts like that. What do you want me to do? Hey, with the maracas and shit, bro. It happens. It is what it is.
Hold up. Your uncle has maracas in the bodega?
Yeah. And a guira.
What you think? He got the ratchet? Nah,
Louis,
he has that.
Louis, I'm gonna give you this name, and you're gonna tell me this is why. Cliff Curtis. Look up this guy. You wouldn't. He's from New Zealand. And when you see his face, you're gonna know he played a Mexican in Training Day. That guy is one of the most amazing actors I've seen because he can play any role, and he does his research. I never knew until
he's right. You're right. I know about that.
That's the guy with the mustache. The guy with the mustache. Yeah, he's an Indian. He's a fucking Latino. He's everything.
He's Arabic, bro.
I found out when he did that movie with The Rock, Charles and Hobbs shit, whatever.
Oh yeah, he's a
That's when I found out. Yeah, man. That's when I was like, yo, this motherfucker's nasty.
He's good, bro. I'm telling you, like
that dude
you can't get
is
like
a phenomenal actor. He's a phenomenal actor.
Who's underrated like
a
that?
great
Too,
actor,
my man
What's his name?
Yeah, he's a phenomenal actor, but he mustache faced, and I'm not sure if I'm cool with that.
But he played a Mexican, so you know what?
I'm not sure if I'm cool with mustache face.
All right.
Listen, hold on.
So Lou lost.
No.
Okay. So by the way, just talking about L's, I got a list for you guys because we were talking about the game and holding down the West.
Hold on, before you get to that, let's ask our guest if she has an opinion on the topic.
Oh, wait, Rita, they're talking to you. They're asking you something.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
Do you have any opinions on what we just talked about?
I honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not a movie person like that. I don't even watch movies. If I have watched movies like that, I would want my time back.
Damn. Two of the themes today is about movies. That shit is crazy.
I mean, like I said, I've never really been a movie person. Like I've watched certain movies, but as of like to be current,
Okay, so just in general, let me ask you a question.
Well, what do you want to be current? You want to be current?
No.
Watch Soul.
I don't know if you heard me beforehand, but I did say that was a movie that I did want to watch, Boo Boo. So I will watch Soul.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But
I really appreciate
in general,
having me acknowledge that movie. So
okay, so Sharita, here's a question.
And the next time if the next time I do decide to participate in the podcast, I will definitely let you know on my opinions, honey. Thank you.
Right.
I really appreciate that.
What are your opinions on blackface in general? Are you ever okay with blackface? Yes or no?
That's a straight up
listening to everybody, I agree with Kuba on certain aspects of things. You know, I can't necessarily, be so gun-ho upset about certain actors, playing certain roles. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of hard to say. Honestly, it's really kind of hard to say. So I can't. It's a lot. Honestly, if you really think about it, it's a lot to dissect. So, if we really want to be technical about a lot of certain things, I don't get offense to certain, actors playing certain roles, which I get it. If they should be Italian, play Italian, whatever. But at the end of the day, it is acting. And there are some actors that can do just about all of it.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
if you really want to be honest about it. So, but with something like that, this type of topic, and then especially with this day and age, this would need to be more dissect, more discussed, more reviewed, more in depth.
So, Brutus, like, what would be?
Thank you.
Like, how far would you go? Like, all right, so you don't go with the Puerto Rican J-Lo to play Selena. You go with a Mexican. But do you go Tejano? Do you go from Corpus Christi? Do you go from Texas?
Born in the same hospital?
Right. So it gets into this weird thing. Like it gets weird, man. And I don't know, man.
Wait, what does Daniel think about
a
this?
Southern Mexican campaign Selena.
Yeah, what does Daniel think about this?
I ain't gonna be mad at Selena.
Daniel hasn't said nothing. I mean, he's agreed with us.
But you gotta
think though, at that time though, like who else would you really could think that you really could think of that would have played her better?
They want to start Salma Hayek. They want she wouldn't have played her better.
Who else could have that really would have played her to a T?
Well, here's the thing. We know that Hollywood.
Could have played her.
But we know that Hollywood chooses actors based on familiarity. It's people that they know that viewers are gonna associate with and go buy a film just because they like that actor.
J-Lo wasn't nobody.
But you got to think of at the times though. At the time when that movie was being
exactly
made,
so
it's like at that particular time. I'm not saying there could have been nobody else, but at the particular time, like you said, familiarity. But at the same time, it's just like if you really thought about anybody else, would they really have gotten Selena down to a T like Jennifer Lopez? Jennifer Lopez did do her research.
But here's the thing with that specific film. Hollywood, Jennifer Lopez was an up-and-coming actress at that time. Hollywood usually gives people, young up-and-coming actors, movies that they don't think that they're not going to invest a lot in as they're sort of getting their feet in the pool type of thing. We saw this, for example, Jennifer Alba. She did that dance movie, Honey.
Jessica.
Jessica Alba.
We saw this
with Jennifer Alba.
She's Spanish too, though, so... I don't
know, but they did this with Channing Tatum when they put him in Coach Carter. They do this with a lot of actors. They put them in movies that they're not going to be highly funded to try to sort of get them some buzz. And Jennifer Lopez at the time, she was going to be the next Latino star. They were preparing her for that. So the movie Selena was for that. No, it's not a knock against her.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
That is a wild take.
But how far?
Okay. But it's accurate.
Peter.
All right. No, you're muted for 10 seconds. 10.
They were gonna make that movie regardless, bro. They killed that girl. That movie was gonna get made regardless.
It was gonna get made no matter what.
Yeah.
She beat like 5,000 people to try to audition that movie.
Yeah, bro. That was gonna happen no matter what. I don't know.
It's true.
Like I said, there could have been other people that really could have played her. Like I said, I wouldn't.
Rosie Perez
definitely could have.
Rosie Perez.
No, Rosie Perez cannot play her.
No.
Oh my god.
I think that
but here's my logic behind that. That movie was going to get made regardless. That movie was going to get made regardless. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that movie, because of what it was about, because who it was about, was the perfect role to get Jennifer Lopez in front of big audiences as a way to prepare her, Jennifer Lopez's career. And so Hollywood.
What was Jennifer Lopez doing back then?
Did you do nothing?
It wasn't handed to her.
Yeah, Salma Hayek was gonna get it. Salma Hayek was more popular than her. Would have drawn more asses in the seats. Like the only reason they picked J-Lo, to be honest, it was exactly the makeup was gonna make her look a little bit more like Selena, and Selena spoke a lot, very good English. She's American,
very good English.
So Salma Hayek had an
accent, stuff like that. I get it.
So I don't know what Buddha's talking about. Like it's.
And Jenna was a dancer.
You know what it is?
Thank you. She was an actual dancer. That's another thing.
No, it's because these dudes have like a childhood crush with Selena. So anytime you say anything bad about
her, get out of here with your hate.
Hi, man. Next. What are we talking about next?
That writer, I'll bring up a good point to you.
Mute it again.
You know the actress.
Crazy, bro.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next topic?
She did the
not even
version,
about
that
Blackface
version show
anymore.
on CW or whatever. Jane the Virgin.
She had an interesting.
Oh, hold up.
I forgot her name.
Puerto Rican, Gina.
There you go.
Rodriguez.
The black chick.
No, she's Puerto Rican.
No,
you talking about Gina?
The Cuban chick.
I thought she was Mexican.
Gina's Puerto Rican.
Isn't she?
Oh, Gina Torres. You're talking about
no, Gina Rodriguez.
No, but he's talking about Gina Torres. He's talking about
Gina Torres, the Cuban actress.
She's Gina Torres. That everybody thinks that she's actually African American, but she's actually Cuban.
Yes.
I know you're talking about. She's in that show. What's that shit called?
That's a girl from the X-Men.
She's married to Lawrence Fishburne.
She was married to Lawrence Fishburne.
Holy shit! She's married to Lawrence
Fishburne. She's on Suits. That's the show.
Yes.
She's on that shit Suits.
Man, if one of y'all don't use fucking Google, bro. I'm on Google.
I'm so lost at who you're talking about.
She has an interesting story in a podcast. She did a podcast, and she was telling the story how she was trying to, so she was a black woman. She was trying to go for Latina roles, but she was always competing with Rosie Perez and Jennifer Lopez during that during that era.
Yeah.
So every time she was trying to go,
I saw that shit.
So every time she's trying to go for a Latin role, Hollywood was like, nah, you playing these roles because this is what we see as Latina women. And it took a damn year until she got to Suits. And I'm talking 20, 25 years later for her to represent herself as a Latino. So once she had her own spinoff.
Oh, they said that shit?
Yeah, they told her. You're not getting.
I'm gonna have to start watching that shit.
What Latino looks like.
Yo, but Mike, are you realizing what you're saying? The image of her as a Latina woman was filtered through what white people thought Latina women were.
No,
Exactly.
that's too novela. That was the filter was the novela that was filtered through Mexico and South America. So don't say it was America.
Mexico.
Don't say it was United States.
That's not what the fuck I said, dude. Like, that's not what the fuck I said. I'm talking about white people. White people are in fucking United States, Mexico.
We understand the white man is fault. We know it's the white man's fault, Brutus. You don't gotta keep punching. Like, we understand it.
Anyway,
it's like I say some shit, and then you motherfuckers literally take the last period in
I
love you, man.
Let me ask something.
Well, let me say, like,
Daniel, help him out.
It took a 20 years.
No, I'm not helping nobody out.
1-800 Brazil. 1-800 Brazil.
Let me ask something. I'm trying to be serious here. Y'all guys are playing.
Hold on. Mike's trying to get something. Let him finish his point.
When she having this interview, she was like, yo, in the 90s, I was trying to go to Spanish Rose. They won't let me do it because I was competing with Rosie Perez and all these other Spanish chicks who they thought that what Latino looks like. So it wasn't until she did Suits and her spinoff that she gave her the lead role to these movies, and she like actually got control of the show. I think she's also like executive producer in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And she made it adamant, like, yo, in these shows, I want to speak Spanish to represent like what my culture is. So
that's great.
If you watch the show, the spinoff, she speaks Spanish. And you got like these roles. If you see her speaking Spanish, everybody looks at her like, oh, how the hell does black woman know how to speak Spanish? And be like, yo, I'm that. And I think she's Puerto Rican in the show.
Oh, for real?
I think
I'm gonna watch that shit. I never watched that shit.
All right, go ahead, Daniel.
That chick is from The Princess.
By the way, first of
Meghan
all,
Markle.
who are you talking about? What is the name of the actress?
She's Gina Torres.
Gina Torres.
She's sexy.
Yeah, you're gonna have to Google her. You're not gonna really.
Yo, and Alonzo does that shit too. He said he was talking about that shit too. Whatever his name is, Alonzo, some shit. Yeah, that dude. He's Cuban.
He says we're all African. We just got dropped to different parts of the country.
Yeah,
like,
man. Yeah, we different pit stops. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, like stop making it a big deal. That's literally what he said. He's like, yo, come on, bro. It's like,
all right. So
I'll disagree on that. But
I wanna ask something to you guys. Like, and this is like particular to Blackface, like, because I think the conversation went to a direction that we were talking about authorship a little bit, and also white people writing like black roles and shit like that, or it's not specific to Blackface. But I wanted to ask this because I get the impression that Blackface, the major issue that makes Blackface so like cringeworthy and so outrageous is more in terms of the stigma. And I wanted to ask you guys this. Let's imagine a world like we live in today. Still got racism because, I don't know, this is a human race. I think if we create another human race, there's still going to be racism. Mm-hmm. But we still got racism, but we never had Blackface like how we got portrayed like in the 20th century, you know what I mean, with Birth of a Nation, shit like that. That Blackface of a white man doing that dumbass shit that white people do. We never had that. Do you think that Blackface would still have this effect that it has today? Because I feel like Blackface, like I said, has a lot to do with the stigma. Like this was something that white people did to undermine black people, to demean black people in a terrible way. Like you cannot defend Blackface, especially in those times. So that's why I believe there is a lot of a stigma into it. And I would like to make a comparison. It's like calling a black man boy. You know what I mean? Calling a black man boy. This is something even that me being a Brazilian, I pretty much studied English the majority of my life, and I didn't know that shit about black people, black men in particular, and how offensive it was to call a black man boy until very recently, So what do you guys think? It would still have the same effect? Do you think that the white people painting their faces black, some Robert Downey Jr. doing what he did or some shit like that, it would still have that type of effect, even if racism was around, but Blackface was never done the way that it was done in the past?
Specific to
See,
Specific-
that was a very poignant. That was very poignant.
specific
And I
to
loved
the specific to the role that Robert Downey Jr. played in Tropic Thunder. I don't even think that role would exist then.
He's
You mean, no, he's
In
saying
that
like
movie.
now, like
I
what
think
it
he's
would
an
have.
No, I know, but he said specifically he mentioned that movie. I just want to add that to it. That role within that movie wouldn't have existed.
Then it wouldn't have
in
been
the
appropriate.
hypothetical world that Daniel
because
betrayed.
Can I say
something real quick before I forget it? Can I say something real quick?
I never watched that movie. I never watched Tropic Thunder, so you guys would need to like contextualize a little.
No, you can just watch it. Watch it on YouTube. It's good.
Yeah, we don't want to take.
There's an addendum that I want.
There's
an addendum I wanted to answer to Daniel's question. A poll, real quick, to the dudes in this group. How many of you guys have ever actually dealt with racism?
Me,
like how many? No, hold on, no.
I gotta stop saying that word. Me.
Okay. Has anybody else in this group actually dealt with some form of racism, whether it's institutional, verbal, violent, physical? Anybody here dealt with racism, like not just once, but even on a constant basis? Who? Like Alex?
Calvin?
I think all of us at some point.
We all have a story.
Yep.
Leonide.
So everybody in this group has felt some form of racism.
Me. Not me.
I wouldn't say felt.
They
I
ain't
would
no
say
racist
have
in America.
encountered.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so Sharita, Cuban Mike has NPR. Have you ever had any interact
Bro,
like any
Peter
racism?
has a wild story when he was painting.
Wait. Oh, yeah.
Peter has.
We'll get into it right now. Just
yeah, we won't get
this
into it
topic's
now.
going on
But,
kind of long.
yeah, but yeah, we all had. I think everybody said yeah.
I have.
Go ahead.
I think the only person that says that they haven't is Presidente.
Because he stays in the basement all day.
Nah, they know
The
racist.
reason I asked that is because I wonder, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong, but I wonder how much your life experience, your contact with racism, affects how you view certain topics, specifically like blackface. And I'll just and I'll add this: I've literally had to deal with different forms of racism, literally since I've been race conscious. And so for me, I tend to see things race first, and I admit that it's an issue, but how much does race influence you guys? And then on top of that, going back to what Daniel's question is, about blackface being a stigma. And I don't see blackface as a stigma. I literally see blackface as insulting. There's no stigma with blackface, in my opinion. That shit is straight out fucking mean.
But that's what I mean, bro. Like the stigma is like that. Like with blackface is one of the few things that like you cannot do that shit and let it fly. Like Drake is a black man and he has a pic because it's not cool. It doesn't matter even if you're a black person with a lighter skin, that shit is still not gonna fly. So that's like,
This is what I want to say. This is what I'm saying.
Hold on, Alex. Let him finish.
Okay, you know what, Daniel? You brought up a great point. You brought up an amazing point.
Let him finish.
Let him finish.
Just to finish like this. This is the stigma that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? That shit is mad offensive. But that shit is mad offensive because of the way that white people did that shit. Like blackface in particular, specifically. How they did it is like, bro, you don't do that shit. We're not gonna let you do that shit anymore. Not even white people, like I said. Even black people can do that shit.
You brought up a great point with Drake, and here's the fucking crux of it all. According to Drake, he did that blackface as a critique on being a black man in America. Pay attention to this one. So you have a light-skinned black man who dresses up in blackface
from Canada
to make a critique on being black in America. People literally shat on him, and the song the Pusha T did was just like fucking whatever. So we didn't accept it. Honestly, it was dope. But we didn't accept this when Drake used blackface to make a critique on being black in America. But we accept it when Robert Downey Jr. makes it as a critique.
I know what you're thinking. Where can I find more? For full episodes of the Ruckus Podcast, you can check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and your other digital streaming services. The Ruckus, it's organized chaos. Don't worry, we're working on getting Mike a better mic. Get it, Mike? And don't worry about it. You'll get it eventually.